Okay, I'm back and answering more of your Team Delusional questions. I am recording this on September 30th, the day before episode 4 releases, so keep that in mind. Anything we learn in episode 4 of the Daryl Dixon spinoff will not be reflected here. I'm also going to apologize in advance if I trip over my words a lot. I've been recording all morning, not only these Ask videos, but some of my own writing podcasts, and once I've been talking for a couple of hours, I start to lose my ability to talk. So if I trip a little bit over my own tongue, I apologize for that. But we are just going to jump right in and answer some more questions. All right. I saw a review of a trailer for upcoming episodes of Daryl Dixon, and there was a scene of Daryl and Isabel in a tunnel or alley, Daryl leaning against a wall with graffiti. Daryl does his little chin mouth rub, which you have laid out as signifying attraction. It's brief, but he does it, giving you a heads up so you can be on the lookout and have a helpful explanation. He's looking at Izzy, but is he thinking of Beth? I think that could be the reason. Let's see. I'm assuming that this is the scene from episode 3, which we've seen now, because that is where they're in the alley with all of the graffiti. I didn't even really notice him doing the chin rub, and I probably just missed it. I'm trying to think of what was happening. I think in this case it was mostly him considering what was going on. And yeah, I mean, I get that some people are going to say, "Oh, so convenient," and that's not what you said before. And yeah, whatever. I don't care. The thing is, what had just happened in the scene was that Izzy had seen that little girl who she knew that was now a walker, and it clearly disturbed her. And yeah, I think that is a callback to Beth. I think he would be thinking about the fact that Beth was looking for the kids when the prison went down, and that when they found the shoes of a child, she started to cry at the train tracks. You know what I mean? He was clearly thinking about what had just happened with Isabel. And the first thing he says in that scene is, "I'm really sorry about that little girl." You know, as in, "I'm sorry that you obviously cared about her. You had an emotional reaction to seeing her as a walker." And him thinking about that, I mean, of course, it's going to bring him back to what happened with Beth. So I actually am glad you pointed that out, because I missed it. And in a way, that might be a hint that that's what he was thinking about at the time, is Beth. Because it is very true. I mean, outside the show, it's just something that's understood, is that men in particular tend to touch their faces. It's a sensory thing when they're attracted to somebody. And yeah, you could say that it was Isabel, but everything else in the show points to the opposite, that he has no romantic attraction to Isabel. Really, the only time that we've seen him doing that is when he was looking at Beth, or when he was obviously thinking about Beth in Them right before Maggie talked to him. And he had talked about just fixing the music box. So it really is a callback to those things. So yeah, I think that's your explanation of that he's thinking about Beth probably is right. I mean, that's the thing that makes the most sense. So yeah, good catch and good call right there. All right, next one. This is kind of long. So I have some thoughts about the last few episodes of Daryl Dixon. I do feel like the whole thing is very similar to Beth and Daryl's whole journey of the prison fall to Grady, and just going to babble on, so I do apologize in advance. That's okay. I babble all the time. The prison falls and Beth and Daryl are paired, showing the journey wandering around lost. The nuns' home is attacked, and Daryl and Isabel have a journey. Similar yet different due to there's 4 of them, and they semi-know where they're going. But still, yeah, I see your point. They're in one place, it's attacked, they have to go on a journey. Gotcha. Beth loses her father, Isabel loses her mother figure, head nun, or whatever maybe she called. Sorry. I think she's called Mother Superior, or Reverend Mother is something they call her sometimes. Anyway, but yeah, you're right. Still, we're losing a sort of parental figure. Daryl wants a radio. Beth wants alcohol. There are detours helping each other, as in Daryl helps Beth find alcohol. Isabel helps try and find a radio. You know, and remember that I talked about I didn't understand the detours line. And WD Way, put in something that kind of helped me with that. And so, yeah, I think this is kind of up the same alley, that there are detours along the way in getting them to where they're actually trying to go. Possible for above detours, Beth thinks there's alcohol at the country club. Isabel thinks there's a radio at the Walker musical place. Yeah. Broken radio / peach schnapps, not good enough to drink. Daryl breaks the bottle. Also, Walker's playing music, all the dead Walkers at the country club. Rich bitch up for show / Walker's putting on a show. maybe not sure. Yeah, no, I think you're onto something here. Then the club, possibly, like when they found the still. The still was a place for alcohol, like the club/bar, both like a party. Arguments, Daryl and Isabel, Beth and Daryl / Isabel and Daryl. So yeah, the fights would mirror each other, sure. The words Daryl uses when arguing about a normal kid survived. Beth, I live and you don't get it. Then the community where they go afterwards / funeral home equals possibly safe, secure, but both are attacked. Daryl tells Beth he will meet her up the road. Tells Isabel he will meet her at her apartment. Laurent is taken. See, there I go, not being able to speak. / Beth is taken. Just my thoughts. The next episodes are going to follow Laurent with his Dawn. Curious to see what plays out. Okay, I freaking love this. This is exactly the kind of thing that I love to find. I love the way that sequences mirror each other. And I really think you're onto something here. I hadn't put it all together this way. We were just kind of seeing individual callbacks, but I think you're right. And especially now that Laurent is gone and has been taken, and we've said that Jeanette is a lot like Dawn, and that there might be some weirdo Grady type experiments going on here. Yeah, I really, really like this. And I think this is really intelligent, and that you're right. I mean, there's too many parallels here to say it's a coincidence. So yeah, thank you so much for sending this in. I really, really like this. And I'm excited to see, hopefully in episode 4 tomorrow, how this plays out. So by the time this video goes live, we will have already seen it. So maybe people can go ahead and fill in what we see in episode 4 and the parallels, and then I can address them in my analysis of that episode. So yeah, thank you so much for sending this in. I really, really like this. This is great work. Angela Kang went to Emily Kinney's opening concert. How cute. Yes, actually, we noticed this. There was a picture posted that Angela Kang was at her concert. And, you know, they have worked together before, so maybe we can't read too much into that, but I still want to. I still want to say they're still working together. They're still supporting each other. And Emily's still a part of the TWD universe. But yeah, no, I'll try to find the picture of this. But she was there, and that was really, really fun. Okay, Groovy Devotedly Rose 86. Hi, how's it going? I recognize people who talk to me a lot. Maybe this is something you've read already, but the description for the season finale of Daryl Dixon says Daryl sets out on a mission. Now, of course, my mind went, he will go look for Beth. But I also have to be realistic and consider other possibilities, like trying to go back home, though that's too obvious in my opinion, or trying to get Laurent to some safe haven, or go looking for Rick. Another obvious one, since Michonne is already looking for him, but my number one wish is the mission will be finding Beth. Yeah, I agree. And so people keep asking me, what if she doesn't show up in season 1? I think that if she doesn't show up and if we don't get a mention of her, this is a possibility. Whether he's going to look for Laurent or going on some other mission or whatever the case may be, especially if Carol shows up and goes with him, that is going to be a massive mirror plot to Consumed and them going looking for her in Consumed. So I will just say that if she doesn't show up and if we don't get any kind of mention of her, which we still might, but if we don't, whatever this mission is that he's going to go on at the end, I'm already going to say he's going to find her at the end of it. So that's what I mean when I say, yeah, I'll be a little disappointed if she doesn't show up in season 1, but you know, we're kind of used to that at this point. It's just more of the same, but I think she'll show up in season 2. We don't know how long any of these spinoffs are going to last, but I don't think they're going to be really, really long. I don't think any of these are going to go for 5 seasons or 7 seasons. I think they're going to be more like The World Beyond, that'll just go like 2 seasons. So we've got Dead City, which clearly has more story to tell. And I can even see that one going maybe 3 seasons, just depending on, I guess, what happens in season 2. I didn't feel like season 1 very much happened. Don't get me wrong. I loved Dead City. I thought it was great, but it wasn't like all this epic stuff happened, you know, and they clearly have more story to tell there. But anyway, my point is that I think most of them will only go 2, maybe 3 seasons, and then all of the characters will come back together into another, like, main show. That's what I think is going to happen, just my opinion. So because of that, I can see the Daryl Dixon spinoff only being 2 seasons, and in the 2nd season, he finds Beth. You know, I can totally see that being the case, and that's why if we don't see her, but if he's going on some mission, whether she's mentioned or not, because of the parallels, I think she'll be at the end of it. So yeah, definitely. But, you know, I'm hoping with you that we hear some mention of her and that he knows he's going to find her, because that would be a closer parallel to Consumed. It wasn't like him and Carol randomly went on some other mission and happened to stumble across her. They went looking for her specifically because he saw the car. He saw a sign of her, which was a cross in the window. So if there's anything like that, it's going to be a really, really big hint of where it's going. So yeah, absolutely. I'm actually really excited to see what episodes 5 and 6 bring us. We've got another week before we get to that, but yeah, it should be really exciting, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. I never watched FTWD because after season 5, I had barely any interest in anything Walking Dead anymore, but I just watched Troy's death just to see what all the fuss was about him returning. Goodness gracious, 2 hard blows to the head with a hammer, and homeboy is back. Gives me a little more hope for Beth. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got to understand, which I talked about last week, that they're very intentional about the injuries that they inflict. And, you know, if anything, I might have said that clear back in seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Fear, maybe they weren't as coordinated as we are used to. Maybe they really were just throwing stuff out there to see what would stick. And to some extent, that's true, because the first 3 seasons of Fear just kind of did their own thing and didn't have a lot of connection to the main show. And then when they moved Morgan over to the show, that created an ironclad connection between the main show and Fear the Walking Dead, and the whole momentum of that show changed when Morgan went over. But Troy's death was before that. So my point is that you could argue that the early seasons weren't as well planned, and maybe they weren't, but now it's still kind of looking like they were, at least to some point, because they were probably always planning to bring him back, you know, and they would have, quote unquote, killed him in a way that ensured that they could if they wanted to, because we didn't see him turn into a walker. We didn't see him get decapitated. We didn't see him have an injury that he absolutely could not come back from. I mean, yeah, he definitely could have died from that injury, but to say that he didn't isn't entirely unrealistic, and the exact same thing can be said of Beth's headshot. So I totally understand, and the fact that they're handling Troy's return the way they are, to me, it is a foreshadow and a forerunner of Beth's return, and they're hinting at a lot of things that are possible because this is coming up. So yeah, I totally agree, and great insight. Thank you. What I can never understand is, if Beth is really dead, why the hell would her Talking Dead episode feature some random comedian and a producer who never gave a shit about her character? So many other characters got great send-offs in TTD. Why not her? It's so disrespectful and gross. EK was also super shy and closed off in her final episode of TD, and it makes me feel like she never wanted to go on it in the first place. Yeah, I mean, once again, I'm a little more optimistic about things than a lot of other people are, and so I was never quite as angry about how it ended, I guess. When I first watched it, and before I had found TD, I was mostly just sad about it. I was probably too sad to really register any anger about it. But then after that, because I believed she was coming back, I was just never that angry about it. You know, I was like, whatever. It's an act. She'll be back. No worries. But I really think that is the answer to a lot of what you're asking here. You're right. I mean, when Sasha left, they gave her this huge send-off. When Glenn and Negan were killed, they actually did this special, huge show for that, you know. So you would think that they would give her a send-off. And everybody likes to say that they were disrespecting her, but I just don't believe that that's what these writers and what this show does. We have seen so much evidence that they really, really respect their actors. They listen to them and their creative ideas. When certain actors wanted to be written out of the show, even though it probably messed up their narrative, they were very respectful about that and found ways to send them off. We know that, so there's the Andrea issue. We know that the way she died was not originally, the way that they filmed it was not what we actually saw in the season 3 finale. And most people, myself included, were not big fans of her death. It came across as really annoying and cheesy, and I just didn't really like it. And I was never a big fan of Andrea anyway, so I didn't have a huge, really passionate opinion either way, but it wasn't my favorite. It didn't feel like a really great death for her. But then Laurie Holden, who played her, has come out and said that she loves Gimple, and she's really grateful to him because he rewrote that episode and actually gave her a much better death. So that always makes me think, okay, what the hell did they film before if this was like massively better? Because again, I just wasn't that impressed with it. But the point is, Gimple went out of his way to give her a better death than the showrunner before him, who was fired because of some terrible decisions he was making in season 3, gave her. So I just don't believe that after everything that happened with Beth and after all of the time and effort they put into her arc, that they would disrespect her in the way that people say that they disrespected her. I think they just would never do that. And so the only other option is that this was done purposely this way because she wasn't actually leaving. I mean, yeah, she's leaving for a time, for a lot of episodes, a lot of seasons, as it turns out, but they knew she would be back. So they weren't giving her an official send-off because she's still part of the show. So that is, to me, that is the whole answer to what you're asking. That's why there was a random comedian. That's why it was her and Kirkman, even though Beth was not Kirkman's creation. She's not even in the comics. That's why they didn't give her a big send-off. That's why she was acting, maybe kind of shy and sad and everything, because I believe that was all an act. And a lot of people actually, back when it aired, pointed out that the way she cried because she started crying several times when she was doing the show, The Talking Dead afterward, people pointed out that the way she cried was exactly the way Beth cries in the show. And the reason that's significant is because she's acting. The way that an actor cries in real life is going to be different than how they cry when they're acting. Because when they're acting, they're getting into character and they're trying to force something that isn't real for them in their real life. It's maybe real for the character, but they tend to look very different when they cry in real life than when they cry as an act. And she was crying exactly the way she cries when she's acting as Beth. So people saw that as, this is an act. And so anyway, all of that. So I hope that helps, and I hope that makes you feel a little bit better about The Talking Dead. I know that there are people who still consider it disrespectful despite everything I just said, but for me, the reason it was handled that way is because it was part of a bigger plan. And so that's why it never bothered me all that much. All right, I'll cut it off there so that we're not going too long. I try to keep these around 15 minutes and I keep running long, but I will be back tomorrow with some more answers to your questions. Have a good day, guys.